She's My Prey by Celeste King, Episode 8.
So, Eroth, here we are, out to dinner, just like Destiny ordered.
I have to admit, I'm starting to come around to this whole fate thing of yours. That dress is sinful.
I knew you'd love it. So tell me, what do you think the universe has in store for us tonight?
Well, if I had to guess, I'd say an evening of great food, even better company. A library full of content to make your toes curl.
I like the sound of that. Worlds.of.Protheka.com is the only library I ever want to check anything out of.
YouTube 30 is a great deal after all. Stackable 30% discount that you won't find anywhere else.
A toast to fate and whatever it has in store for us.
To fate, and a whole lot of luck.
This is episode 8 of Celeste King's She's My Prey.
Chapter 40. Renem. Sadie simply stares at Jorben, her blue eyes still wide with shock. Her hands tremble slightly at her sides as the silence stretches on, Sadie catching her bottom lip between her teeth, her brows pulling together as she thinks over Jorben's request. A part of me desperately wants to answer for her, to reject Jorben's request of Sadie stepping into a role that will only bring her more danger. But I keep my mouth shut, clenching my jaws together so tightly I think I might crack a tooth. I need some time to think, Sadie blurts out before darting from the room. I follow her without thought, leaving Jorben behind us as a strange storm of emotions swirls in my chest. I latch onto the anger I feel, finding the familiarity of the emotion grounding when everything else seems so foreign. I will not allow you to be put in danger like this, I growl after her, catching her arm and halting her retreat. When Sadie turns to face me, her eyes swim with unshed tears, the crystalline blue sparkling in the low light of the library. I know, she murmurs softly, reaching up to caress my skull. I feel a pang in my chest, my anger at the situation we found ourselves in ebbing away. I'm left feeling afraid. I'm afraid of what may happen to my little Day, afraid that I will not be able to protect her against what's coming. I'm afraid that I may lose her. You do not have to do this, I tell her, softening my voice and lowering myself so I can look into her eyes. You are free now, little Day. You do not need to force yourself upon this mission. But it's not forcing myself, is it? It's been my responsibility longer than I've been alive, Sadie replies quietly with a watery smile. It has nothing to do with you, I say a little too sharply. They can find someone else. You are not bound to this. We can kill Indor and Gandorf and be done with it. You won't be in danger anymore, I say emphatically. I can see that Sadie is tempted to say yes, to allow this responsibility to be pushed off onto another future generation. Despite her clearly weighing the option I've laid before her, we both know deep down that she'd never allow this to become someone else's problem, least of all one of her descendants. For the first time, I find myself almost angry at my little Day's spirit, at the inherent goodness she holds within her. I want her to be selfish, to allow me to be selfish. She is mine, and I am not willing to lose her. Sadie opens her mouth to respond just as I catch a whiff of something hanging in the air, something that spells danger. I throw myself on top of Sadie, sending us both careening to the ground as the library explodes. A deafening boom tears the library apart, books flying off of shelves and wood splintering as the explosion rocks through the small space. Entire walls concave in, and I press myself tighter to Sadie as a dim ringing in my ears replaces all other sounds. My head is splitting with pain from the ear-bursting noise, but I fight against the dizziness and nausea as flames begin to lick up the walls. Sadie is dazed beneath me, her blue eyes unseeing. Her mouth moves, but I can't hear what she's trying to say. Instead of trying to interpret her words, I succumb to my instincts, my claws extending and my hackles standing on end as I leap off of her and pull her to her feet, tucking her safely behind me as I try to locate the source of the attack. A figure appears in the smoke, and I lunge for it, barely able to rein in my attack as I realize it's Jorben. Blue light pours from his outstretched hands as he says something to me, determination set into his every feature. Tendrils of blinding white dance along the edges of the blue, warring with the flames around us. Go! Jorben shouts, his voice finally breaking through the haze in my mind from the explosion. "Get out now! I'll hold them off!" "Who?" Sadie screams from behind me as I sweep her into my arms. Garrigal appears next to Jorben, his own magic violet and swirling, winding around Jorben's as profiles of dark elves begin to emerge from the smoke. Jorben nods to Garrigal, dropping his magic and turning toward us quickly. Even in the chaos around us, Jorben gives us a comforting smile. "The dark elves have found us, my dear girl, presumably at the behest of Indor and Gandorf. You need to leave right now. Allow us to keep you safe." "No!" Sadie protests, stepping toward Jorben. I'll help. I can help. Just tell me how to use my magic and we can fight them together." Jorben shakes his head as Sadie speaks, something sad flitting across his features. "I'm sorry, Sadie, but there's no time. I cannot simply tell you how to wield your powers." "Jorben!" Garrigal calls, his voice strained as his magic sputters. A wall of violet stands between us and the emerging dark elves, but as more and more of the elves begin to wield their own magic, holes begin to appear in the wall, stray spears of elven magic pushing through. "You must go now," Jorben says urgently, blue magic beginning to gather between his fingers as he steps back toward Garrigal. "No, please, Jorben, we can help!" Sadie screams, trying to take a step after him. Jorben smiles sadly at Sadie before his violet eyes find mine, his face turning solemn. "Protect her, Renem. We will find you when we can." I give him a singular nod before I grab Sadie, scooping her into my arms and pressing her tightly to my chest. Sadie writhes against my grasp, her desperate motions to get down, to help, causing a pronounced ache to bloom in my chest. I only hold her tighter, turning away from where Jorben and Garrigal are fending off our attackers. I sprint past the rows of crumbling shelves and leap over walls of flame as Sadie screams back at Jorben. It feels like it was years ago that we first crossed the threshold of that rear entrance and spent the night together in the basement room. But I silently vow to myself that it will not be the last time we lay together, the last night that we know peace in each other's arms. I will get us out of here in one piece, and I will kill anyone who stands in my way. Sadie's writhing stops as we approach the exit, her fingers twining tightly in my fur as a choked sob escapes from her lips. The library burns around us, the smoke and heat nearly unbearable as we finally crash through the exit and are enveloped in the cool night air. A dark elf leaps on us the moment we're out of the building, forcing me to drop Sadie to catch his sword head on. The blade slices into the thick skin of my palms as I rip it out of the dark elf's grasp, throwing it away from us before lunging at him. The dark elf's scream is cut short as I unhinge my jaw, catching his skull between my teeth and gnashing on his head like an overripe fruit. The softness of the flesh of his face gives way to hard bone, which cracks under the pressure of my jaws, squirting chunks of brain matter and smooth, hot blood down my throat. The metallic tang of the elf's blood dances across my tongue, inciting the bloodlust and aching hunger I'd nearly forgotten about during my time with Sadie. She is the only thing, only person, who has ever dulled the sharp pangs of hunger that robbed me of my mind for so many centuries. But now that I've had a taste of hunting again, I don't intend to stop anytime soon. Not until Sadie is safe from those who would wish her harm. A pained yelp catches my attention, and I whirl toward where I dropped Sadie to find her grappling with a dark elf guard. The guard evades her blows easily, grabbing her ankle as she tries to kick at him, jerking her feet out from under her. Sadie lands flat on her back, the wind audibly knocked from her lungs as the dark elf begins to drag her away. With an enraged roar, I leap at him, the guard reacting too slowly to defend himself. My arms wrap around his waist as I tackle him, my skull in the perfect position to hear his ribs crack beneath my weight as he hits the cobblestones beneath us. In one fluid motion, I rip the elf's arms from his body, his screams only adding to the violent war song playing within me. "Do not touch her," I snarl at the elf before bringing my foot down in a brutal stomp, caving in his skull and cutting off his screams. I'm moments away from dipping my skull down to rip open the elf's exposed belly when I feel Sadie's hand on my shoulder. When I turn to look at her, her face is pale, her eyes darting about wildly. "Renem, we have to go," she says. I know she's right, but the beast between my ribs protests, the gnawing hunger harder to control now that I've been reminded of it. Sadie seems to see my inner struggle, and she grips both sides of my skull, forcing my face to hers. "Stop! We have to leave right now!" The desperation in her voice clears the last of the fog in my mind, and I scoop her into my arms just as a group of dark elves rounds the corner and spots us. I extend my wings, shaking out the stiffness from them being pressed to my back for so long, and in seconds we're off the ground. Black plumes of smoke twist up from the burning library beside us, marring the sky like angry scars. I beat my wings again, harder, in an effort to try and get us further off the ground. Smoke stings my eyes and clogs my nose as we rise higher, the library in shambles beneath us while the dark elves shout to one another. Sadie coughs, making a choking sound as she grabs at my fur frantically. I spare a split second to look down at her, trying to understand what's agitated her, when I hear a whistling sound split through the air. I bank left, throwing my body weight into the turn in an effort to evade the arrow flying toward us. It misses Sadie and my torso by little more than a hair, but my wing isn't so lucky. I roar my pain into the sky, trying desperately to keep us upright as a nauseating wave of pain crashes through me. More arrows begin to fly toward us, and I grit my teeth, launching us further up into the sky and away from the elves, using the smoke rising from the library to try and hide our location. I waste no time navigating us back to our cabin, skirting around the city edges and trying to avoid any populated areas more dark elves might be hiding in. Thankfully, we managed to get to the cabin without incident. I land harder than I intend to, sending both Sadie and I sprawling to the ground from the impact. I'm barely able to push myself up to my hands and knees, and Sadie rushes to me, her worry evident on her face. "You're worried," I manage to say, though the effort of using my voice makes me dizzy. Sadie gives me a small smile, although her brows never smooth. "You're getting better with emotions," she replies before turning an assessing eye to my wing. I follow her gaze, the hole that's been torn in my wing slick with a black-green, pungent substance. "Let's get you inside," Sadie murmurs, casting a nervous glance at the woods around us before helping me to my feet. Once inside, I all but collapse on the edge of the bed, my body spent from the effort of getting us here while feeling so terribly. Sadie gathers her supplies quickly before returning to sit beside me, coaching me to extend my wing and dabbing at the tear gently with a warm, wet washcloth. The tear has healed only marginally, and Sadie gives me another worried look. "You're not healing as fast as before," she says, looking between me and my wing. "It was poisoned," I tell her. Exhaustion begins to creep in, making my body feel heavy. "It will be fine tomorrow, little day. But first, we need to rest." Sadie looks skeptical but sets aside the bowl of warm water and the cloth, satisfied that my wound is as clean as it will get. I settle back against the cushions of the bed, extending my hand to her. She takes it, allowing me to lead her into bed beside me. We're silent for a moment, simply staring at one another as the truth of all that's happened in the past day begins to sink in. This is not the first time I've come so close to losing her, and yet it feels different than all of the others, more permanent. It makes me appreciate this moment all the more. I dip my head to hers, nuzzling the side of her cheek with my snout and allowing myself to bathe in her scent. The song Sadie's blood sings for me only heightens my exhaustion, lulling me too close to sleep. Do you think Jorben and Garrigal made it out?" Sadie asks quietly. I pull my skull from the crook of her neck, holding her gaze. "I don't know," I answer honestly. Sadie takes her lower lip between her teeth at my response, nodding. "I hope they did," she says softly, almost too softly for me to hear. I pull her closer in lieu of a response, not knowing what I can say to assuage her fears. "You need rest, little day. We must leave tomorrow. It's no longer safe for us here." Sadie hums her assent, nuzzling closer into my chest. I extract one of my arms to grab a blanket, pulling it over the two of us and tucking the end in firmly beneath her back. Despite all of the anxieties I know to be plaguing her, Sadie falls asleep quickly, her breaths becoming deep and slow as we lay together. Despite my own exhaustion, I don't dare allow myself to sleep. I very nearly failed her today. I will never let that happen again. Even with that silent vow, however, a familiar fear wriggles and turns in my chest. With all that we've learned of Sadie, of Indor and Gandorf's plans for her, I feel for the first time as if I'm not capable of anything. I knew Gandorf and Indor smelled strange, that there was something about the duo and their manner that felt different and yet familiar, but I wasn't able to put my finger on it until Jorben revealed everything to us. Gandorf and Indor smell of black magic. While I have many strengths, I'm not invincible, and black magic is the most powerful type of magic that can be wielded, the most lethal of all the weapons in a dark elf's arsenal. My arms squeeze tighter around Sadie at my thoughts, the wriggling fear in my chest growing. I must protect her no matter what, even at the cost of my own life. But will I be able to withstand such dark magic when the time comes? Or will only one of us make it out of this alive?
Chapter 41. Sadie. The morning light hits me in the face, waking me from my uneasy slumber. Renem had insisted that I sleep, that we could discuss things the next day, but I couldn't sleep easily next to him. I knew that he wasn't a god, but it didn't hit me until last night that he wasn't immortal either. I guess I just assumed he was impervious to injury. His wounds always seemed to heal so quickly before. But he was hurt because of me last night. Someone was killed because of me. I can't do this. Those bastards won't stop trying to find me. I hate them for what they've done. I feel as though I'll never be truly free of them. Renem is the only person I care about right now, and I'll be damned if they take him away from me. They want me, and they won't stop until they've got me under their control. It's frustrating, the never-ending struggle. I wish it wasn't like this. My eyes well with tears. I can't let them tear us apart. I think I really care about Renem, and I don't want to lose him. A few slip out, but I can't bear the thought of him waking up and finding me crying, not after he's already been through so much because of me. So I wipe them away hastily. It's no use crying right now. Not when there's work to be done, right? I busy myself with exploring what staples we've got in the pantry so I can come up with a meal for us. Renem has only really eaten dark elves and beasts of the forest before. I want to introduce him to more human foods. Maybe I can help him get used to a better diet, or at least vary his intake so he doesn't have to hunt as much. I respect him for who he is, but I also can't quite stomach his diet. So I gather eggs, milk, butter and flour and start working on making biscuits. I only know simple recipes because the bordello life was supposed to push us into a world of luxury and servants. But I know how to make biscuits and gravy. I don't know how, but I think maybe whoever I was with before the bordello taught me. Maybe a relative, a grandmother or an aunt. My time before the bordello is blurry and faint, but I have flashes and bits of memory here and there. The methodical mixing and kneading of dough takes my mind off things for now. I can't wallow in my fear and worry, so I pour all my feelings into my cooking. Once the biscuits are in the cast iron stove, I start on the gravy, pulling out a heavy bottom skillet from the cupboard and shaking out more gravy, along with some animal fat and some drippy sausage. It doesn't take long for the mess to brown up and become thick and creamy. The smell seems to rouse Renem, because in a moment, he's there with his arms wrapped around me, curiously sniffing at the smells. I made breakfast, I tell him, a light blush spreading across my cheeks. It feels so domestic like this, the two of us in the cabin, like I'm playing house. A pang of realization hits me as he nuzzles my neck. I don't want to play at this with him. I think maybe I want this for real. The thought frightens me a little, so I put it in the back of my head. I'm not ready to think about that yet. We need to leave, he says. We can't stay to eat, as delicious as this smells. Please. I turn in his arms, looking up at him, eyes wide and pleading. I don't want to leave yet. Once we leave, we know we'll be on the run yet again. We'll be in danger yet again. Can't we just stay for the day? This was our home. All our memories of our time together have been wrapped up in this place. And I bet they won't find us as quickly here. They don't know where to look. I add. Renem lets out a low groan but stares at me, eye sockets trained on my face. He lets out a huff and nuzzles my neck again. Fine, he says, conceding to my request. One day. We leave tonight, though. I know he just wants to keep me safe, but I want to keep him safe too. So I wind my arms around his neck and nuzzle into him, determined to stay close by his side all day if I have to. We eat and Renem helps me wash the dishes. It was good, he tells me, tone clipped. I know he's not being rude, he just isn't used to caring so much about another person and still hasn't gotten the hang of his emotions yet. Thanks. I smile, slipping my hand into his. We can pack later. Can we just sit together by the fire for now? I'm being clingy, but I can't help it. Tonight we're going to be in danger again, and who knows if we'll both make it out alive this time. He pulls me down onto a pile of rugs by the fire, and we sit together, cuddling and nuzzling each other for a while in silence. His heart seems to glow a soft lavender. I'm not sure what it means, but I think maybe he's feeling a few things. Purple seems to be lust, but that might be a soft desire for me, or at least desire to keep me safe and in his arms. It makes me happy either way. I don't know how many days we have left together. My feelings are still so scary, but maybe I should tell him how I feel at least. I'm not entirely sure how I feel myself, but at least if I say something, I can go on knowing that he knows I care. We can't stay cuddling all day, and eventually we have to get up to start packing and preparing to run. I'm busy with the last-minute preparations when I feel something prickle inside me. It's like there's something in my belly that senses danger. Renem is trying to figure out how to stuff more things into the trunk he's going to carry, and so his back is turned. He doesn't see it, but I feel it. I look up, eyes scanning the room. Something isn't right. Something is off. My eyes finally land on the window and a strange colour grabs my attention. Letting out a gasp, I realise what's happening. My heart leaps into my throat at the sight. Something is staring back at us. A pair of eyes glow in the fading light of the sun. Someone is watching us.
Chapter 42. Renem. Sadie is behaving strangely. I have enjoyed our day together, despite the anxiety gnawing at my gut. Sadie has stirred feelings inside me that I don't quite know how to place, and while the nameless sensations are still frustrating, they are also pleasant at times. Looking around at our cabin, I feel a strange mingle of emotions. Our belongings have begun to disappear. The clothes strewn across the bedroom floor tucked neatly away in our pack. The supplies that once littered the kitchen now diminishing by the hour. I feel sad, but also strangely happy. I'm appreciative of this place, of the haven it provided for the two of us through the chaos of these past days. It has been a comfort in every way, a reprieve from the looming danger of our future. I want to ask Sadie what this strange mix of emotions means, but I find myself unsure of how to ask given her behavior. She's jumpier than usual, her scent mingled with fear. Her eyes seem to dart to the windows and doors at the slightest noise, even the breeze making her body clench tightly with fear. When she's not acting as if she's expecting a threat to crash through the door at any moment, she seems distracted in other ways. Her eyes go misty at strange times, unfocusing from whatever task she's working on as if she is no longer seeing what is in front of her, and is instead looking off at something in the distance. "Are you all right?" I ask after she jumps particularly hard at a branch knocking against the bedroom window. Sadie's head whips to mine, the fear in her eyes dissipating quickly as her face falls into a strangely neutral expression. "I'm fine," she replies, though her voice is a bit higher than usual. I do not believe her, but I am unsure as to why. Her behavior confuses me, but I have not known Sadie to lie since we have become closer. Despite finding her answer unsatisfactory, I grunt in response, returning to the last of the cans and stowing them in another pack. "Wait," Sadie says, coming up behind me and grabbing a jar from my hand. "I still need this one." "Why?" I question, cocking my head as I scrutinize the jar in her hand. It's a jar of jam, and I cannot imagine what need she would have for it. Sadie's lips tilt up into a smile as my eyes lift to hers. "Because I have plans for us. Since it's our last night in the cabin, I wanted to do something nice. You know, to celebrate this place and our time here," she says, setting the jar aside. "Plans? What plans?" I ask cautiously, still eyeing the little jar. Sadie giggles at my reticence, closing the distance between us and wrapping her arms around my waist. "It wouldn't be a surprise if I told you now, would it?" she quips playfully, her vibrant blue eyes twinkling beneath her thick lashes as she peers up at me. Warmth fills me as I look down at her, and I reach up my hand, brushing her hair gently from her face and allowing the tips of my fingers to tangle in the gentle waves. "I do not know if I like surprises," I reply, but Sadie's grin only widens. "I'm pretty sure you'll like this one," Sadie says lowly. Something in her voice makes the gentle warmth that bloomed in my chest turn to a raging heat as it drops lower into my belly. "Are you going to surprise me now?" I ask, my voice throatier than it was seconds ago. My fingers drift from her hair to skate further down her body, tracing the smooth curves of her waist and hips. Sadie's cheeks bloom with a kiss of crimson, her eyes glazing slightly and making the heat in my body turn to a scorching inferno. A low, hungry noise shakes free from deep in my chest as I look down at my little day, and I'm seconds away from lifting her off her feet before she dances out of my grasp with a giggle. "Not until we finish our chores," she says in a sing-song voice before she returns to the bedroom, throwing me a wink as she disappears past the doorframe. I growl my frustration, throwing everything but Sadie's silly jam jar into the pack in a hurry. I swear I hear her laugh from the bedroom. Once I've completed the tasks Sadie asked of me, I hurry into the bedroom, more than ready for the surprise Sadie has touted. Much to my chagrin, Sadie orders me to sit on the bed and leaves the room, only poking her head back in to make me promise not to peek. I grumble my agreement, shifting anxiously on the bed. Every minute crawls by, and annoyance begins to nibble at the back of my mind. Given her earlier behavior, I certainly had not imagined that my surprise would consist of me sitting alone in this room. I'm already climbing to my feet to go and find her when the door swings open again, Sadie appearing behind it. Her eyes widen as she sees me standing, and I hurriedly sit back down on the bed, making Sadie laugh. "Renem," she admonishes playfully, wagging a finger at me. "Were you about to peek?" "I'm tired of being in this room alone," I grumble at her, and she laughs again. "We'll have to work on your patience," she says, laughter still playing in her voice as she closes the distance between us and grabs my hand. "You're lucky I'm already done." Sadie leads me from the small bedroom to the living area, thrusting her arms out proudly at what she's set up. The small, stony hearth blazes with a gentle fire, various day skins and blankets from the cabin piled on the floor before it. On the ground beside the pile of blankets are 2 plates, each laden with pieces of dried meats and hunks of various kinds of cheese, and between the plates, Sadie's little jam jar glimmers in the firelight. Sadie beams with pride as she watches me look over her surprise, warmth spreading through my chest as I look between her and the arrangement. She set up all of this just for me. It makes me feel happy, important. "I like it," I say, and Sadie's smile widens at my words. She leads me to the blankets, and we both settle atop them, the soft warmth of the fire tickling my outstretched feet. "Why did you need your jar of jam for this?" I ask, and Sadie laughs. "Because I thought we could experiment with some food. I know human food is new to you, but I think you'll enjoy yourself," she says, giving me a dazzling smile as she reaches for a slice of mottled white and blue cheese. Sadie spreads a small dribble of jam over the top of the cheese, and reaches for a slice of salted, dried meat to wrap around it before presenting it to me. I sniff at the cheese dubiously, looking between the small wedge in my hand and Sadie. It smells pungent. Sadie rolls her eyes at my words, swatting me playfully. Just try it, she urges excitedly. I place the wedge on my tongue, chewing carefully as Sadie watches me expectantly. A myriad of flavors dance over my tongue, pulling a groan from my throat. My eyes shut as I enjoy the wedge, trying to pick out each of the flavors mingling happily in my mouth. The pungency of the cheese is softened by the sweetness of the jam, the salty, savory meat tying the two flavors together beautifully. When my eyes open again, Sadie giggles, clapping excitedly. You should have seen all the colors your heart glowed, she squeals, picking up another piece of cheese and a small slice of fruit. Here, try this one next. We continue like this for quite some time, Sadie putting together different combinations of foods while I dutifully try each of them. The joy she exudes over such a simple evening together makes me feel dizzy with affection. I would gladly try anything, do anything, to continue to make her this happy. The sunlight leaches from the sky as our night progresses, Sadie adding logs to the fire to keep it from going out. Eventually, we've both had our fill of the wonderful foods Sadie set out for us, and we stretch out across the pile of blankets with our limbs tangled together. I enjoy cheese, I tell Sadie as she snuggles deeper into my side. I feel her smile against me before she lifts her head up to look me in the eyes. I can tell, Sadie teases. Her hair is mussed from being pressed against me, and I absent-mindedly reach up to run my fingers through it. Sadie leans into my touch, her eyes fluttering shut as I caress her. When she opens them again, it is a fight to keep the air in my lungs. The vivid blue of her eyes sparkles in the dying light of the fire, her thick lashes and arched brows framing the depths of all of the hues of blue. I am lost in her, thoroughly and completely. I want nothing more than to kiss her, to touch her, so I do. I shift us gently so that I'm hovering over Sadie, her back pressed against the pile of blankets. Her eyes widen as I settle onto my elbows above her, that delicious shade of pink blooming across her cheeks once again. I drop my skull slowly to the crook of her neck, nuzzling against her before letting my tongue slide from between my lips to trace a long, lazy stripe up her neck to where her jaw meets her ear. Sadie's hands come up to skate across my chest as I lick her, her fingers tangling in my short fur as her back arches up off the floor. I huff a breath across the wetness of my saliva clinging to her neck, and Sadie shivers beneath me, a small, wordless moan dropping from her lips. She turns her face to meet mine, pressing kisses along my skull as I shift my weight, bringing my free hand down to stroke against the swell of her breast. I trace the line of her full lips with the tip of my tongue as I tease the tightening point of her nipple through her dress, running my thumb over the peak. I groan as Sadie's hands begin to wander lower on my chest and stomach, brushing against the waistline of my pants. Desperation begins to edge in as her hands halt their descent, and I'm so focused on the way she feels beneath me, the heat coming off of her small body, that I almost don't notice her stiffen beneath me. The second her posture changes, however, I rein in my desire, pulling away from her to look her in the eyes. What's wrong? I ask, and Sadie shifts uncomfortably, avoiding my eyes. I'm tired, she says abruptly, shifting again. I lean back on my haunches, and she sits up, scooting away from me slightly. Her withdrawal from me makes my stomach tighten. Did I hurt her? Have I upset her somehow? As if reading the emotions whirling through me, Sadie finally meets my eyes, giving me a small smile that doesn't look right with the rest of the expression on her face. I'm okay, I'm just tired. We should probably go to bed. All right, I say, at a loss. I can't shake the feeling that something has upset her, that I've ruined what was otherwise a perfect night. I try to chase away the sting of her rejection as she climbs to her feet and walks to the bedroom, telling myself that she is only tired. I know that she is likely concerned about everything else going on, that there's much that weighs on her mind. But even knowing that, I can't help but be sad about the turn the night has taken. I want to make her feel better, to feel as I feel when I'm with her, but I do not know how. Sadie climbs into bed without looking back, and I find myself lingering near the edge of the bed, unsure of what I can do in this moment. I desperately want to hold her, to simply be close to her, but I also do not want to cross any boundaries or suffocate her. May I lay with you? I ask awkwardly. Sadie rolls over to look at me, and a strange expression crosses over her face before her features soften. Of course you can, Sadie says gently. I climb into bed beside her, careful to keep my limbs to myself despite my desire to touch her. As soon as I'm in the bed, Sadie shifts so that she is laying beside me, gently pulling my arm up and around her to resume our usual sleeping position. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, she whispers quietly as she tucks her head against my chest. I'm just tired is all. You haven't done anything wrong. Relief swells in my chest, but it's tainted by the tone of her voice. She says I did not do anything wrong, but she still sounds so unbelievably sad. All right, I hear myself say once again. We do not speak again, and before long it seems that Sadie has fallen asleep. Her steady breaths soothe me, and sleep begins to creep in, dulling the sharp edges of my thoughts. As my thoughts fade and I begin to fall into the blackness of sleep, however, I'm suddenly jolted awake by a familiar smell. I can't quite seem to place it, but the scent has my hackles involuntarily raising as I rack my mind for what the source must be. My memory is hazy, but the last time I smelled this scent, I was outside of the manor in which Sadie was being kept by Indor and Gandorf. It must be one of them, I'm sure of it. I'm ready to fly into battle immediately, but glancing down at Sadie sleeping on my chest, I'm unsure. Should I wake her? What if this is for nothing? Or some sort of trick intended to lure me away from her while she's vulnerable? This must be why Sadie has been acting so strangely, I realize. She must subconsciously have felt danger lingering nearby. Indor or Gandorf's fetid magic reacting with her own. It all makes sense to me now. I lie awake in our bed, waiting for the telltale signs that someone is near. But they never come. No sounds of motion come from outside our cabin. No whisper of voices echo off of the trees around us. Everything is silent and still, and the scent never becomes stronger. Should I risk going in search of them and leaving Sadie unguarded? Or would it be wiser to try and lure them into the cabin by pretending to not notice? My mind tangles around my thoughts, anxiety setting my blood rushing. The most important question of all echoes in my mind as I stare at the windows around us, waiting for any sign of an intruder. How did they manage to find us?
Chapter 43. Sadie. Renem is agitated, I can tell. It's difficult to maintain my deep, steady breathing as he bristles beneath me, but I know I need to continue to keep up the facade of sleeping. I can't help but wonder what's made him go on high alert like this. Did he see that pair of eyes too? The image of those two wide, icy blue eyes dances across the back of my eyelids, and I squeeze my eyes shut tighter, trying to chase away the haunting image. I've never seen anyone's eyes look so unhinged. I tried all day to quell my growing horror at the image, but I can't escape it. I tried to tell myself that it was nothing, that I'm just tired and on edge from everything we've learned and what my future inevitably holds, but I know deep down in my core that that's just not true. Even my mind couldn't make up something like that. The feeling of being watched has lingered all day, even in front of the fire with Renem. Thinking about our evening together makes an ugly guilt roll in my stomach, but I try to push it away. If I never come back, if I don't survive this confrontation with Indor and Gandorf, I wanted him to have at least one good, peaceful memory of me to hold on to. And then I ruined it. Shame and regret rear their ugly heads as I think about the way I'd practically scrambled away from him. I truly didn't mean to hurt him, and I wish I could explain how badly I wanted to be with him in that moment, but I know it would only complicate everything. The idea of being watched while doing something so intimate had soured the moment. Not to mention, I only felt I was taking advantage of him. To lay with him and then leave in the dead of night felt too cruel, and I worried it would only hurt him more. As my thoughts continue to wander, I keep circling back to those eyes. The fear I feel at running into the owner of those eyes in the woods nearly makes me rethink my plans to leave, but I hold on to them tightly. I have to leave, even if it breaks my heart. It's the only way I can end this, and protect Renem in the process. The fact that we're being watched only proves that whoever is watching us is clearly after me, and leaving will draw them away from Renem. Sleep tries to fog my mind as I lay still and silent against Renem's chest, but I shoo it away, refusing to succumb to the exhaustion nibbling at me. If I fall asleep now, I won't be able to keep Renem safe. I'll never have an opportunity like this again. Slowly, Renem's body begins to relax beside mine, and before too long, his breathing deepens in the way it only does in sleep, the deep blue glow of his heart shining through my closed eyelids. Whatever was worrying him must have gone away, which is good news for me. It means I'll have less resistance when I leave. I edge out of bed, moving painfully slowly and holding my breath so as not to wake Renem. He shifts suddenly as his arm falls to the bed, closing around where I was laying moments ago. I freeze, terrified that he'll wake, but thankfully he settles quickly, his heart still a deep, slumbering blue. I hold in my sigh of relief, creeping out of our room and into the kitchen, grabbing the bag of supplies I'd stashed earlier today. It doesn't take me long to scrawl the note I planned, but after signing the note and pressing a quick kiss to the paper, tears spring to my eyes. I try not to imagine how he'll feel when he wakes up and I'm not here, but reading the words I've written on paper, everything suddenly feels much more real now. Renem, please know that I wouldn't have done this if I thought I had another choice. I can't bear the thought of you being hurt because of me. You have been my protector. Now please let me be yours. I have a plan, and it's going to solve everything for us. But you have to wait here. I will come find you again, I promise. Just be patient, even when it's hard. Know that I'm leaving my heart here with you. Yours, Sadie. A part of me wants to throw the note away now that I've read it. It does nothing that I feel any justice. But then again, I don't know that any words I could put on paper would. With every day that passes, my feelings for Renem have grown more overwhelming and complex. The only thing I know to do to try and convey even a fraction of what I feel for him is to keep him safe. So instead of throwing the note away, I creep back into our bedroom, placing the note atop the table flanking the bed. Against my better judgment, I brush a soft kiss to the tip of Renem's skull before creeping back out of the room, unsure if this is the last time I'll ever have the chance to. A bolt of fear lances through me as I come to a stop before the front door of the cabin. Anything could be lurking beyond these walls, any manner of beast or foe, and without Renem I'm practically defenceless. You'll be far more defenceless if he dies, I remind myself, steeling my spine. I've relied on others for far too long, whether it was the bordello, or Renem, or Jorban. It's time I save myself. Before I can think better of it, I slip out of the cabin and into the surrounding woods. I'm lost. Sweat beads against my brow as I look at the same fallen tree and bite back a frustrated scream. How ironic for me to try and slip away to play hero, only to get lost in the woods and die of starvation or beneath the claws of an animal. I thought that I'd be able to navigate my way back to the town by the light of the stars. But I stupidly didn't factor in just how dense the treetops would be. I can hardly see snatches of starlight, much less full constellations. A part of me wants to give up, to sit down where I am on the forest floor and wait for Renem to inevitably catch my scent and find me, but I leash that part of me quickly. Instead, I push deeper into the woods, changing tactics and heading in the opposite direction. I suppose if I walk far enough, by daybreak, I might find something familiar. I'm so lost in my frustration that the overwhelming silence of the forest doesn't strike me as odd until it's too late. I come up short, alarm bells ringing in my brain as the silence thickens around me. Even this deep in the woods, this late at night, there is some sound to be heard, the rustling of forest creatures, or the sleepy song of insects, unless there's a predator on the loose. My mind involuntarily flashes back to the night I tried to flee Renem in the woods, the night that would have been my wedding night. This silence is too similar to that, although this time I know Renem is not the thing I have to fear. Moving as quickly and silently as I can, I begin looking for a tree to climb. Hiding within one did me no good last time. It puts me level with anything that could be hunting me. I find a suitable tree and readjust my pack over my shoulder, extending my arms up to grip the lowest branch when I freeze. A pair of eyes stare down at me from the next tree branch up, and my heart leaps into my throat. It's not the eyes I found watching me earlier today, but they spell doom all the same. A Leica. The beast's yellow eyes blink at me as I slowly retract my arms, my heart thudding wildly in my chest. A low growl emanates from the disembodied eyes, the beast's coat so dark that it blends into the surrounding night as if it were a part of it. I try to back away slowly, not wanting to initiate its hunting instincts. But it quickly becomes clear that it's too late for me, as the night around the eyes seems to shift, the beast's coat gleaming in the dim light as it prowls down the side of the tree. With no options left, I turn on my heel and run. The Leica lets out an earth-shaking roar as it gives chase. Not caring about the underbrush, I barrel through as it sets its sights firmly on me. Panic makes my knees weak, my steps beginning to falter as I dash through the forest. Another roar echoes off the trees, this time closer, and I know that I'm doomed. I cannot outrun a master predator, especially a hungry one. My stupid plan to protect Renem, to try and save the world, dissolves before my very eyes as the Leica leaps at me. The beast's massive body lands atop mine with an ear-shattering cry, knocking me to the ground. I wait for the sharp kiss of claws or fangs, wait for the inevitable pain, but it never comes. I realise after a moment that I've screwed my eyes shut, and in the swallowing silence and absence of pain, I carefully peek one open. The Leica is dead, its massive jaws lolling open as lifeless yellow eyes meet mine. Did I use my powers? My incredulity at the idea quickly fades as I catch sight of the fletching of an arrow protruding from the side of the Leica's neck. I hardly have time to register what it means before the Leica's weight suddenly disappears off of me, leaving me with an unfettered view of a cloaked figure before me. Fear grips me instantly as I catch sight of the pointed ears and telltale sharp nose of a dark elf beneath the figure's hood. The dark elf's body is wound tightly, and between the strange spasms of his body and the fact that his eyes remain obscured, the elf casts a chilling figure. Now, how silly of you, my dear. Don't you know that these woods are dangerous? The figure asks, extending a hand to help me up. I stare at the elf's outstretched hand, his voice sending chills running down my spine. Something is horribly, terribly wrong with this elf. His voice sounds high and teasing, but there's an undercurrent to it that feels wrong, disturbed. Feeling I have no other choice, I take the elf's hand, allowing him to pull me to my feet. Thank you, I say quietly, dropping his hand the second my feet are beneath me. I edge away from him slightly, but my discomfort doesn't go unnoticed, the elf letting out a high, keening sound that I realise a moment too late is laughter. You have no need to fear a friend, the elf cries before bowing dramatically. I'm Hocker, dear human. Do not fret. I try to get my racing heart under control as I stare at the elf, trying desperately to think of a way out of this. The male is clearly unwell, and here I am, standing in the middle of an empty forest with him. Before I can determine the best thing to say, the elf's arm goes rigid, flying out in front of him in an accusatory point. I stumble backward, startled by the quickness of the motion. "That way," he says, his voice far lower than it was a moment ago. Sweat dribbles down my spine, nausea rolling in my gut. What's that way?" I manage to ask, my voice shaking. "Why, what you seek, of course," the elf responds, his voice back to being gratingly high. "You do seek to return to your master, do you not?" "How did you know that?" I whisper, taking another step backward. The cloaked elf lets out another shrill giggle, clapping his hands excitedly. "You better go, go, mustn't be late. Hurry, 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 little human." In the elf's excitement, his hood shifts, revealing his eyes. Two wide, icy blue eyes stare out at me from beneath the lip of his hood. I stumble back, turning on my heel and sprinting in the direction the elf pointed. It was him. It was him watching us. Was he sent by Indor or Gandalf? Is that why he was at the cabin? I move faster than I ever have before, half convinced that the elf is following me, playing a sordid game of cat and mouse. I expect him to leap out of a bush to drag me back, but he doesn't. Despite having no signs of being followed, I don't let up, running until my body threatens to buckle, images of that elf's eyes swimming behind my lids every time I blink. Who was that elf, and what game is he playing?
Orcs. Gargoyles. Vampires. Ice monsters. Demons of the dark. These beasts seek war, destruction, and power. And there's only one thing that can tame them.
Love.
This is your chance to get the uncut and unabridged audiobook bundle.
No detail is spared.
Use discount code YouTube30 for an additional 30% off of the already discounted price.
Go to worldsofprotheka.com.
Get access to countless audiobooks and discounted bundles where I talk you through every last scene.
Protheka's magic is eternal. Audio bundles will make it immersive.
Chapter 44. Renem. My head lolls to the side, the ache in my neck enough to wake me up. I don't remember the last time that my body felt so heavy, and flashes of the night before echo through my mind, reminding me what must have drained me. Sadie's face flashes behind my eyes, and I remember our tender night together, even if it didn't end the way I wanted. As I shake off the sleep clouding my mind, I want nothing more than to wrap my arms around her and bury my face against her neck. But as I try to shift my heavy limbs to reach out toward her, I realize they don't move. I groan as I fight it, my instincts waking up the rest of my body from what I now realize was a very unnaturally deep sleep. As a predator, I've never been so unaware of my surroundings, and now that my adrenaline is pounding through my body, I'm starting to take note of what I should have already realized. For instance, I don't recognize any of the scents around me. This isn't the cabin we have been staying in, and the only trace of Sadie I can pick up on is on my body. My body goes into overdrive, struggling against the restraints keeping me pinned in place. Through my addled brain, I finally recognize what has happened. My body has been tied up, and that's why I can't move. The panic that initially squeezed my heart is now being replaced with the growing anger sweeping through my body. It clouds my vision, heightening my senses. With a roar, I jerk forward, anticipating my arms ripping free of my restraints. But instead, I'm held in place. It gives me pause, just before I grit my teeth and try again. And again. And again. My skin is burning from the abrasions, and I don't care. My only thought is shredding whoever has done this to me and getting to Sadie. You won't be able to get out. The voice startles me, and I realize that, again, I was not aware of my full surroundings. When was the last time that my mind was so muddled that I didn't pick up on a foreign scent or a stray scuff of someone's gait? What has my captor done to me and how? I blink, trying to clear my vision that's gone blurry. My body tends to find sight the least useful of my senses in this situation, and it takes a moment to make out the dark elf before me. But as soon as I do, I snarl at him. He has dark hair tied back, skin nearly as dark, and eyes as bright as the moon. The same elf I keep seeing everywhere. I don't understand why he's here, but I don't trust him. Especially not the smile on his face that makes my instincts surge, screaming inside my skull to kill him. Twisting my hands, I try to shred my restraints with my claws, but I can't even manage that. I am powerless against ties that should not be able to hold me. What has he done? You don't know how to listen, do you? His head tips back as he lets loose a shrill sound that is lacking humor. I believe it's supposed to be a laugh, but it sounds more threatening than anything. Just like his smile. Such a good job, well done, he murmurs, coming closer to me. His eyes trail down my body, inspecting me in a way that makes me want to lash out. But my wrist is caught by the ties and he screams out again. The others won't believe I've done this. He starts to circle me, setting me further on edge. They'll finally believe me. They'll say job well done, Haka. And I'll make them drop to their knees before me. He stops in front of me, baring his teeth and leaning in my face as he snaps, "Where they belong." While I'm worried where Sadie has gone, or at least I do not believe she is near, I am now relieved she is not here. I've never seen a creature this irrational, and I wouldn't trust him anywhere near her. Job well done, I growl as I struggle. For what? For capturing two creatures without a fight? You have no honor when it comes to the hunt. I don't think he has Sadie, but I have to be sure. And as I suspected, his jaw tightens at my words as he leans closer to my face, dangerously close. Close enough that I unlock my jaws and consider how much room I truly need to get my jaws around his head. I don't need to fully snap through his skull, just enough that he'll bleed out. But I don't have enough give from the ties. He seems to know what my reach is, and he's dancing along it. Not two, Wera. Just you. You have no honor either, Nightcrawler. You prowl along the darkness, snatching people up. You're lucky I did not do the same to your girl. I let her run along home. My heart thunders painfully. She went back to Indoor? I roar, enraged by what he says. How could she go back to that place after I've rescued her? I thought that she wanted to be with me. In my anger, I snap forward, but Haka dances back, laughing at me. I was right about you, Wera. I snarl, gnashing my jaws menacing and ripping open the skin on my arms as I try to break free. My limbs are significantly weakened, though I don't know by what. I can already feel my muscles starting to tremble, though they've done nothing to exhaust them. She is your weakness. No! My voice is so deep and throaty that even I don't recognize it. But that seems to only spur this elf on, unlike the others I've tracked. I was foolish for having laughed at the ones that soiled themselves in my presence. I could use another like Indoor right now, not one so fearless when it comes to being alone with me. You can't lie to me. He bares his teeth at me, throwing his arms out just before snapping his head back and laughing again. I've followed you for too long. I know what you are. I've seen how you've ripped every other creature apart, but not her. I roar, but his words cut through my growl with a sharp edge. You won't harm her. I've seen it with my own eyes. Why else do you think I've been leading the Dark Elves to you? Trying to get her taken away so you are distracted? My jaw parts, and I know the color of my eye sockets must be glowing brighter, sharper. Fear, deep and churning, spreads through my body. No. He nods, that vicious smile back on his face. I did. Quite smart of me, huh? What do you want? I intend for the words to sound more menacing, but they don't strike as a predator's angry demand. They sound too upset, an emotion that only finds me when it comes to Sadie. You, of course. He darts forward until he's nearly brushing against me, his eyes widening as if he wants to see more of me at once. I've dedicated years to following you, studying you. You have power unlike any I've seen, and I intend to claim it for my own. I don't know if he can take Awara's ability, but there is only one way that I can claim new skills, like sentience and magic, by consuming my prey. And right now, I am this elf's prey. The thought sends a renewed jolt of adrenaline through my body, and I twist, desperately swiping at the ties with my claws. I try to turn and use my sharp teeth, but I can't quite reach them. And in that, I leave myself exposed. Something slams between my ribs and I jerk back, screaming. I can endure pain, but rarely am I unable to defend myself. I snarl as the dark elf laughs and withdraws his weapon, a sharp blade glinting with my blood, lifting it to his lips. My teeth grind against each other as he swipes his tongue across the blade, licking my blood clean, and he groans. "Now that's what I'm talking about," he screams before launching at me with a look in his eyes that I know well. It's a predatory glint that confirms my suspicions. He slams the blade into me again, laughing as I scream, and my blood spatters across his skin. He seems to enjoy it, licking his coated lips before twisting the blade. "That's it. Scream for me. Your fear will make that heart of yours even better when I consume it." And as much as I want to fight it, I don't know if I can. This elf has every intention of bleeding me out slowly, and I'm starting to wonder if I will survive it.
Chapter 45. Sadie. As it turns out, the elf wasn't wrong, whoever he was. I didn't have to walk too much further in the direction he pointed me in before I heard the rustling of others coming in the early morning light. "That's her." "Hey! Where do you think you're going?" "Don't bruise her. He said don't use her." Soon I'm surrounded by 4 dark elves, quite a number for just one human, talking over each, and I think some are shouting at me. I stand still, not putting up a fight as they grab me roughly, forcing me to my knees. I was always trained for this position, wasn't I? My arms are wrenched behind me, but I keep my chin up and don't make a single noise as they tie rope around my wrists and waist. I won't give them the satisfaction of admitting how much the restraints burn against my skin. As they march me through the forest, my hands pinned to my sides, and 2 of the elves holding ropes leading to my waist, as if they couldn't just strike me down with magic. Instead, they have to make me feel like a mount pulling them along. I think only of Renem. Renem and how sweet he looked as he slept. Renem and all the guilt I feel for not having told him a proper goodbye. He is the reason I'm here. I couldn't bear for anything to happen to him, and so I let them take me back to Indoor's manor, preparing to lie just like the madam had taught me. My entire life I've learned the art of looking believable as I whisper falsehoods in the bedroom. How hard can it be to convince Indoor that I wanted him all along? As we break from the tree line in front of the manor, I swallow the bitter taste in my mouth and see a familiar and nauseating elf rushing toward me. As soon as his hands touch my sides, the ropes disintegrate, and I fight a shiver at the slimy feeling of his magic coasting across my body to do so. "Sadie," he hums, pulling me against him like I am his long-lost lover. It takes everything in me to wrap my arms around his waist, going along with his charade. I keep replaying the words I told Renem to get me through it. I am doing this to protect him. Indoor. There's vomit surging up my throat that I have to swallow, especially as he pulls back to cut my face. "I'm so glad we found you. Are you hurt?" I shake my head, and then remember the plan. Pressing my lips together, I let my eyes drop and my shoulders curve. Indoor catches my chin, forcing me to look at him, and I can't fight the shiver that rips through me. Thankfully, he thinks it means something else entirely. "He did, didn't you?" This time I nod, letting tears gather in my eyes. In reality, I want to cry because it feels like I'm ripping out my own heart betraying Renem like this, but Indoor can draw his own conclusions. "Come, let's go inside. We can get you cleaned up." His eyes track my body and he wrinkles his nose. "And in proper clothes. I'll have the chef cook something special for your return." Indor keeps his hand on my lower back as he guides us inside. Around the pathway, Zagfer bow to me as if I'm some lady of the house when I know how little I mean to them. As we ascend the steps, I even spot another white-haired elf watching me with piercing amber eyes. Though Gandalf doesn't come out, I can feel the way he follows my movements down the hall. "The Lady Sadie has returned," Indor shouts at nearly every servant, and they bow and utter their thanks to the 13. It's a great show that I want no part of, and what's worse is we don't go straight to my room. Indor stops outside a sitting room and peeks his head in. "Guess who's here?" My stomach churns as I hear a familiar voice respond, my ears too muffled by my pounding heartbeat to even process what she said. I nearly jolt down the hallway, but then Indor's arm is locked around my waist again, keeping me rooted in place. "Sadie!" Madame Fleur smiles at me, though her eyes promise violence. "How lovely it is to have you back." "Sadie?" My blood runs cold at the next voice, so unexpected that I forget to control my facial expression. The madam's smile turns sinister, and I know better than to act out right now. Monica comes out of the sitting room dripping with jewellery and fine clothes. She looks like the true lady of the house, dressed like an elf instead of a human. And that's when it hits me. They were replacing me with her. They are treating me like this when I was so replaceable to them. And while I don't want to be here, I hate the false behaviour. But with Monica around, that's all there can be. While I was away, I realised that my years at the bordello were worse than they should have been. Where I stood up for others, the other girls always tore me down. And I let them. Stupidly, I didn't bother to stand up for myself not once, because I felt like they were justified in their anger because they had been dealt a horrible hand in life. Well, not anymore. I won't stand aside and take Monica's Torah nonsense just because she is miserable. But we don't have to make it worse. But Monica did, and I'm about to show her what that feels like. "Monica!" I give her a wide grin, walking forward to fold her in a hug like we are the best of friends. Her eyes bulge a little as I do so, but she wraps her arms around me, and when I am near her ear, I whisper, "I'm here to take my place back, Torah bitch." Monica gasps, jerking back from me, and I offer her a smug smile. It seems to push her just far enough that she rears back, going to slap me, but before she can, a grey fist whips out in front of me. Indor catches her arm, thrusting her back so that Monica stumbles and falls to the ground. The madam makes no effort to intervene as Indor slaps her, snarling, "You don't touch her." He motions to 2 servants nearby, and they grab Monica, dragging her up to her feet. Her face is bright red from where Indor hit her, and tears line her eyes. "Lock her in her room. She is not to come out until I allow it." Straightening as the Zagfer take Monica away, Indor turns back to me with a bright smile. "I'm so glad you are back. Why don't you go freshen up with the madam's help, and I will meet you for dinner?" I've only just opened my mouth when the madam's hands dig into my shoulders. "Absolutely," she says for both of us, and he smiles, looking me over again before walking away. The madam and I don't speak as we climb the stairs to my room, and I keep my protests in as she scrubs me. I endure the humiliation of being bathed and let her fix my hair, though it feels more like she's trying to tear it out. I think she's trying to provoke me, and I cling to the role of a scared, traumatized girl, with my eyes downcast and my mouth firmly shut the entire time. When I reach the dining hall, thankfully Indor dismisses her. "Sadie, you look just lovely," he tells me as he gestures for a Zagfer to fill my wine and water glasses. "Thank you," I squeak out, lifting the wine glass to my lips, but then I think better of it. I hold mine out to him, and he clinks the glass to mine. "To your return home, and many days together." Satisfied with my response, Indor leans back in his chair. Only once I see him swallow do I feel safe enough to drink the wine myself. "So, tell me, where did you go?" I gulp, trying to swallow around the thick knot in my throat. I'd rather not talk about it. I look up, giving Indor a strained smile. I'm just happy to be home. I want to focus on that. He examines my face for a beat too long, and I can feel sweat start to prick at my skin. But then a bright smile breaks across his face and he nods. Of course. Why don't you tell me what has happened here in my absence? I offer, as food is dished out onto my plate. At that, he lights up, and it takes him no time at all to launch into his own tales of going into the city and hunting in the woods. Such a considerate husband-to-be he was to be so busy while I was missing. I don't say that, though. I let him go on through dinner and dessert, and even as he walks me up to my room. As we hit my corridor, though, he pauses in his sentence, looking at me with a spark in his eye. It was really so difficult for me to go so long without you, wife. He tightens his arm around my waist as we near my door. I giggle, though it sounds panicked to my own ears. We'll have to try that wedding again. I'm not your wife yet. I try to make it sound like I'm teasing, and he spins me so that I'm pressed up against a wall. I'm not blocked in by any means, but I'm still uncomfortably close to him. Semantics, he says, leaning in to breathe in my scent. When Renem does this, I love it. I tilt my head to the side so he can bury his face against me, but with Indor, it makes me feel sick. Sadie, he starts, and I can't let it go farther than that. His tone is too husky to not be suggestive. I am feeling unwell, I blurt out, and he pulls back to look at me. Scrambling, I explain. I think it's just the whole ordeal. It has left me quite tired, and with a bit of a migraine. I think it's time for me to go lay down. Right. He says it slowly, but he leans off the wall, getting out of my way. Rest up then. I will. Good night, Indor. He watches me as I go back in my room, and once I'm finally inside, I feel like I can breathe again. I go to the window where I used to sit, staring out at the tree line, and it feels like my heart is going to break. I know I told him not to, but I can't help but wonder if Renem is out there. I press my hand against the glass and whisper, I miss you. And I can't help but wonder, what is Renem doing right now?
Chapter 46. Renem. I've seen the moon rise and set 5 times since I last held Sadie in my arms. Her scent has vanished from my fur, and every time I drop my head, I miss it. I miss her. Growing tired, beast? 5 suns have risen to a morning like this, where Haka wakes me with taunts, and each day it has become more and more difficult for me to fight these restraints. He hasn't fed me, and with that knife, I've been gutted 5 times, my body struggling more and more each day to heal me. He's draining me slowly, and I realize now that was why I wasn't able to break free the first day. He had already weakened me while I was asleep, so I couldn't attack him. It seems you are coming to your end. I barely acknowledge his words. I let my skull rest on my chest, inhaling deeply and only smelling my blood. I wish that Sadie's scent would never fade from my skin, seared into my fur like she is in my mind. He darts forward, but I don't look up. I can tell from the scuff of his feet and his scent that he's right in front of me, his hot breath brushing over the top of my skull. If I wanted to, I might be able to get my jaws around his head before he moved. But I don't try. He thinks that I am close to death. But he is wrong. The elf has underestimated my will to live, and if he thinks his daily attempts to weaken me are enough for me to let go of this plane of existence, he is wrong. Nothing will separate me from Sadie, not in this realm or any after. I will always find the one my blood sings for, and that is her. I've come to recognize that there is no way for me to overcome this elf in my current situation, but part of being a predator is observing. I may rely on strength, but I know how to bide my time. With Haka, he is growing sloppier with each day. He believes that my weakness means he doesn't have to be vigilant, and now that I know that, I will use it against him. I keep my body limp as he circles me, but he doesn't seem as enthused without me snapping at him. He stops just before me, trailing the blade along my sore torso. "Come, Wyra. Try to fight, to escape. What of your girl? What do you think is happening to her in that elf household?" The growl in my chest I find to bury. He knows that Sadie is my weakness. I've broken every time for her. Just the mention of her sends me into a frenzy as I try to break free and snap this elf's neck. It has not worked. It's only enticed him to gut and bleed me, letting my body fight to heal me and leaving me weaker than I've ever been. When I don't respond, he snorts, "Pity." And for the first time in 5 days, he walks away without stabbing me. I'm a whole piece as he slips from the room, and I silently laugh. I've succeeded. He believes me too weak to put up a fight, which means there is only one thing left to do. I'm coming to you, Sadie. I stay still the rest of the day, just in case. It isn't hard for me considering how bad I need the rest. My head stays drooped against my chest, and I try to sleep as much as I can manage before Haka returns. I know he's going to. He has every night. But tonight I'll be ready. I'll show him the kind of mistake he's made doubting my love for Sadie. And the thing that will be his undoing is not killing me the second he had a chance this morning. Without him draining my blood, I feel my body growing stronger steadily. It's stitching itself back together since it's not under attack. When I hear the door creak open, I fight to keep my muscles relaxed. Adrenaline starts to surge through me, and I'm ready to leap at him, feeling a bit of renewed energy. It won't be enough to break the restraints, though, so I wait as his slow footsteps come closer. My vision even weakens until I'm certain he won't see the red glow of my eyes. It's as close to closing my eyes as I can get. His breath brushes the front of my skull, telling me his location easily. Looks like I was right. I know he's smiling from the way he says it, and it makes me want to snarl. I fight it, though, letting him continue to believe his lies. I need him to. You finally died a slow, painful death just as a monster should. I doubt, between the two of us, that I am the monster. The heart of a suffering wearer should be tastier, don't you think? Maybe I can slice open the rest of your body while I cook my meal. His laughter is sharp, so close to my ears. It would be nice to know what is going on under all the fur. He shifts to the side, and I fight to keep very, very still. If my chest shifts colors, he'll know, and while I am hopeful and scared, I urge my body to stay calm. I don't want him to notice anything until I am released. Haka's fingers brush my arms as he reaches for the first tie, and my hand almost twitches as he undoes the restraint. I barely catch the motion of blood flooding back into the tips before he moves to the other side. After holding my breath and keeping as still as I can, I feel the other tie drop to the floor. My eyes snap open and Haka's widen in shock. "You are alive!" I snarl as my fingers wrap around the ropes and fly forward. Without thought, I wrap the ties around his throat as we fly onto the floor, my body on top of his. His hands grip my wrists as he flails, but I am bigger, heavier, and stronger. Even in my weakened form, he can't get out from under me. Magic zaps through my skin and I laugh this time. "You taught me to endure pain, elf." I gnash my teeth in his face. "Your magic can't harm me." He coughs, his nails cracking as he tries to escape, and the hunger that has been burning at the back of my throat comes surging up. I'm so weak, and I know I need something to keep me going. But I refuse to eat this thing. I don't know what he has consumed, what he's done, or what it will do to me. To steady my trembling hands, I lean down and bite a chunk out of his throat, ripping back and savoring the way his blood splattering on my face feels. Hungrily, I chew the meat, my body already starting to come to life. Haka's blood spills out of his neck, and it reminds me so much of all the times he left me to bleed out that it doesn't even stir my hunger. I want to watch him die slowly, and I dig my claws into his flesh, laughing as he screams. Too soon his cries start to die out, and his body goes limp. The last of the blood spills, and I drop him to the ground, pushing up to my feet. I need to go to the city to hunt and regain my strength. But first, I have to know if what he said about Sadie was true. Did she really go back to Indoor? I stumble through the forest, finding our cabin with ease. Inside, the room still smells of her, and it makes my heart soar. But I don't think she is here. And as I search the cabin for her, I spot a small letter that I don't recognize. I pick it up, thankful that I've bothered to collect things from the elves and taught myself their trivial skills like how to read. Because otherwise I wouldn't know that Sadie did leave me, and she wants me to stay put. I let loose a growl as I throw the note. No, I snarl. Sadie might want me to stay here and wait for her, but that will never happen. She will never have to face her enemies alone. I will enjoy shredding them. Dashing out of the cabin, I start for the city, my instincts already taking over. I'm going to gorge myself on dark elves, and then I'm coming for Sadie. I can't wait to feel Indoor's blood rush down my throat. The only question is how much of a fight will he put up this time? No matter what, I will defeat him. Just the thought of shredding him has me running faster. Sadie, I'm coming, and this time I will bring down the entire manor. Haka called me a monster, but he hasn't seen what I am truly capable of. Not like these elves are about to. In a world of elves, demons, and liches.
What would you choose?
Power?
Or passion?
Would you stab the monster in the back?
Or take him to bed?
The immersive fantasy audiobook bundle has it all.
Go to worldsofprotheka.com to get access.
Use code YouTube30 to get an additional 30% off.
Protheka's magic is eternal. Audio bundles will make it immersive.